Hey, what is up? Welcome back to another podcast right here on Freewillphotos. Today, we're talking about pricing of photography because that's a big deal in the photographer industry. A lot of people have different ways of charging prices, and what I talk about today doesn't mean that you have to price this way. What I am really suggesting is to look at how you would like to sell your imagery and sell your services and things of that sort. And we'll even talk about what it is that we are selling because I think that that's way more important than not knowing what you're selling. So let's go ahead and dive into that. Before we get too far into the content, let me just tell you, you can get a hold of me by going to my website, freewillphotos.com. You can also email me at freewillphotos@gmail.com. I do answer my emails. I do answer any of the inquiries that come from my contact form. And then, of course, if you're watching this on YouTube, just leave a comment and I'll get back to you. Now, when it comes to pricing, sometimes we make this way too complicated. Way too complicated. The simple answer is charge what you think the value of your photography is worth. Where a lot of people get caught up on this, new photographers that are pricing their work, they get caught up on the idea, well, if such and such photographer is charging $800, then I should probably be charging somewhere in there because I don't want to lowball the market. I don't want to leave money on the table. Here's the deal. You're going to eventually start to build a good idea of what you should start charging once you start charging people. So choose a number that you feel comfortable with what your work is producing and be honest with yourself, right? If you're just starting out, don't come to somebody and be like, oh yeah, that's $1,500. Why are you, what reputation do you have to even go off of for $1,500? Instead, maybe you start at $100 for portrait sessions. And there's nothing wrong with this, all right? I get it. You got to sell more of those in order to live the lifestyle that you probably want to be able to live of freedom. And, that's why a lot of people get into photography is to have the flexibility to be creative and things of that sort. However, when you start selling at these higher price points, you make it harder for you to build a portfolio. You make it harder for you to build a name around the brand that you associate yourself with. And it just becomes one of those things where people are like, you're overpriced and there's no value in the work. Let's start, before we jump too far into the pricing, because I did throw out some numbers there. Let's talk about what it is that we do and the value that we bring. In very simple terms, when we are a photography business, we are solving a problem for our client, all right? The thing that we're selling is not a photo. That just happens to be the thing that everyone can see. The thing that we're really selling is the solution to a problem. That's what any business does. If you go to McDonald's, it's probably because you're hungry. They're solving the problem of you being hungry and offering you some food that doesn't take relatively too long to prepare. Even though it's not good for you, they're still selling it to you, right? And they're solving your problem. We go to amusement parks because we want to have something to occupy our free time and have some fun and, kind of relax. They're solving that problem. We pay for a ticket to get into the amusement park. We get on rides. I think you get the point. We have to solve problems for our client. Now, the way that we solve that problem is by understanding why they're even looking for photography in the first place, because they may not even be in the need for photography. Maybe they're looking for video. Maybe they're looking for, paintings, whatever. But you have to understand the problem that your client is having, and then you start to connect with them on that, and you sell them on what you can provide to them to solve their problem. That's all it is. And it just so happens that you know how to work a camera in the way that they need for a final image, if that's what they're looking for, or to capture a moment, if that's what they're looking for. If you're just capturing something really beautiful like landscape, because that's a whole nother discussion. But the point here is your pricing is really based off of how well you can solve a problem. And when you're starting out, you don't really have a leg to stand on to solve a problem. And I don't mean that in a bad way, and I'm not trying to, bash anyone when I say that. What I'm saying is you have to build up the repetition in order to know how to solve problems. Once you do that, you're going to be golden. All right. Case in point, I took a job for a family that their dog was getting ready to be put to sleep because he was old and in a lot of pain, and they were having a hard time saying goodbye. So, in their mind, they said, "Hey, I need photos." Me and it was a wife and a husband. They didn't have any kids. They wanted a family photo or a group photo of the dog or their dog and themselves. That was the problem that they presented me with or offered to me. So naturally, when I did my consult, which I'm now calling a planning session, which if you're not doing planning sessions, you are missing out on opportunities to understand the true problem that your client is having. All right. Because everyone is going to have a different problem that they're trying to solve, by the way. Photography. Everyone is going to have a problem or a different problem that they're trying to solve. They may be similar, but they're very unique to that client. So you got to pay attention to what your client is needing. So in this case, they wanted a family photo. I said, okay, how can I best deliver on providing them a group photo with their dog in his final days of life? So what I did was I said, okay, during our planning session, I said, when I come over to the house, just go ahead and have all of your dog's toys that he has in the house. Have those laid out. Put those somewhere, where I can get to them. And clear out a space where your dog naturally goes. All right. And we want to make this place look just like you have always lived in the house. So you don't need to overly clean. Obviously, get rid of stuff that can easily go, like trash and things of that sort, if there's anything in that area. If there's, kids' toys well, they didn't have kids, but essentially I just told them, like, hey, whatever you have in that space, just leave that there as is, because I want to capture you in your natural environment, because that will speak more to you than if we make these photos like super sterile and we get rid of everything. And that's a whole different idea of photography, by the way. Maybe I'll make an episode about that. But once they understood that, I went back and said, okay, when I got there, I said, all right, let's go ahead and put Mr. Pudges in the area on his bed. All right. I set up my lights because, it was pretty dark in there. So I had to bounce some flash, set up my lights, and I was just observing Mr. Pudges. And for about 5 minutes of the shoot, I was just putting toys in front of him and I was playing with him, getting to know him. The problem that I wanted to solve for this family was I wanted to give them a variety of images, but I had to get Mr. Pudges to warm up. So what I was selling is I'm going to get to know your family, and in this case it was the dog. I'm going to get to know your family, and I'm going to capture you guys in a very natural way. All right? Candid photos is what I was going for. But the only way that I could get those candid photos is if I got Mr. Pudges to hang out with me and, really get comfortable with me. So I solved the problem by giving them a variety of candid photos. Now, I did give them the group photo, but I gave them more than what they were looking for. I allowed them to spend time with their dog while I just captured the moment. And that is the problem that I solved for them. They didn't want just the group photo where they're all looking at the camera, or at least I don't think they did, because they didn't really know what they were looking for other than that shot. What I did as the artist and as the photographer is I took control of the situation and said, okay, here's what I can deliver. And that's what you sell. And that's what you base your prices off of. Now, for that photo shoot, I did that for $150. $150. It was supposed to be $200, and I agreed to $150 based off of the circumstance and the family situation. And I wanted to take care of the client. I'm not such a stickler for my pricing as some people might be. My job is to take care of my clients. Now, that doesn't mean I give everyone a discount, right? I don't do that for everyone. This was a very special situation, and it was my choice to give the discount. Instead of charging $200, I said, hey, just meet me at 150. We're going to make this happen for you because it was a very hard time for the family. So I took care of them. All right. And that's how you really start to build a reputation of, hey, we could work with this guy because he understands us, right? So, how does this translate into your pricing? Well, when you sit down and you do a consult or a planning session, which again, I highly recommend that you do, because if you're not sitting down doing consults or planning sessions, you're missing out on a huge opportunity to serve your client, all right? To ask them questions, to figure out what they're really looking for. But once you do that, you can talk to them and say, okay, so based off of what I'm hearing, and then you just repeat every single thing down the line as they said it. So what I'm hearing you say is you are looking for a family photo, a few candid images, a few detail shots of certain things, a few wardrobe changes, and then you can say, okay, here's my base price. This is just my price to show up and do the session. And we'll say for this theoretical situation is $100. Now, some places, they complicate things and they charge sitting fees. Look, if you are into family portraits, all right, family photos, I don't believe that you should charge this is just my personal belief. If you believe something different, let me know in the comment section below, or however you want to let me know. If the family has 5 people in it, 6 people, 7 people, I shouldn't be charging for each individual person, okay? I shouldn't charge a sitting fee for, and when I say the family, I mean the immediate family. If they bring in grandma, grandpa, if it's only 1 or 2 extra people, that's fine. But if it's like aunts, uncles, cousins, and they're just trying to get like a family reunion, then that's going to be at a different price point because that's a group shot that I have to bring probably extra lights for, and I need to have more space. I need more time to plan out the shot, as well as probably post-production, because the more faces you add to an image, the more you're probably going to need to retouch and find photos where people's eyes are open. Like, you have no idea how many times I've taken group shots where a good portion of the group has their eyes open, and then there's like 2 or 3 people that have their eyes closed. And it's like, okay, now I got to go find a photo where their eyes are open too, so I can, it's insane. You should absolutely be compensated for group shots. I think group shots of 10 or more, and sometimes you could even say 7 or more, whatever. The point that I'm making here is if it is part of the natural family or the immediate family that hired you, so husband, wife, kids, then don't charge a sitting fee, or at least I don't believe you should, because that's part of her family and she needs to get them captured, or he wants to get those family members captured. So I think it's only appropriate that you photograph them. That's just me. If you need to charge for a sitting fee, charge for group rates. Don't charge a sitting fee. Every time that you piecemeal something, it makes it more difficult for the client. All right. Now, there's some science behind this, and I'm no scientist. I'm just, sharing information and my thoughts about what I've experienced. Okay. So here's the deal. If for any reason you have to charge for group rates, charge a percentage of whatever your session fee is. That's all you have to do. You can choose the percentage. So if you want to charge 10%, 15% more, right? So if $100 is my session fee, 15% more, that means I'm going to charge $15 more. It's just how it goes. So you could say, okay, for a group, let's say you charge 30% more. So now it's the session fee plus a group fee. Now that's $130. I don't know what you have to figure out what your value is worth, and you can make that percentage go up, or you can keep that percentage the same and you start to change the cost of your session. All right. So it keeps it simple for you to do your pricing. Now, the other thing, which I probably should have backtracked, right? Because I did I started this whole thing off wrong. So I almost feel like I need to restart the podcast, but I'm not going to do that. Here's the deal. You need to know how much money you need to earn in order to break even. Okay. How much money you need to earn in order to break even. So whatever you're charging, you need to make sure that you're covering taxes. So a good rule of thumb is 30% of your income goes towards taxes. All right. That's like whatever you charge, 30% is going towards taxes. And then you have to look at it and say, okay, how much money do I need to make by the month in order for me to break even to pay my bills if you're going full time? And if you're just going part time, figure out what it is that you would be satisfied with by spending your time. Because if you have another full time job and you're doing this part time, you should be satisfied with the compensation that you're getting out of whatever it is that you are charging. All right. So if you're charging, let's say your break even for the month is $5,000. Well, you could do 5 shoots for $1,000, 10 shoots for $500. What is it? 20 shoots for $250. You get the point there, right? So whatever you need to do part time to figure that out, you got to have that number in mind. So from there, everything you do should be based off of, like, once you have that number, then what you do is you start to plan, okay, how many shoots do I need? Divide that by an equivalent amount of shoots. So for simple math, right? So let's say that we want $2,000 as our monthly income with photography. That means I need to find 10 sessions at $200 in the month. And I need to do that consistently every month. So now that I know that, that's my base price. I must charge $200. I got to get $200. And the easiest way to get that $200 is to say my session fee is $200. So anytime someone books with you, and you call this a retainer fee, all right? My retainer is $200. You get that. It's non-refundable. Don't call it a deposit. Don't call it a booking fee or anything like that. Just call it a retainer fee, and make sure that in your contract that you have this individual sign, which everyone's going to have people sign a contract. Make sure that it says retainer fee, non-refundable. You charge $200. So right off the bat, whenever you book a client and they pay that retainer fee, you already know that you've met your quota for the baseline of what you need for the month. Now, if you want to stop your pricing there and say, hey, it's $200 retainer fee, and this comes with all your edited images, then you can do that. But what I do is I say my retainer fee is $200. And then in order to purchase the gallery, you're going to pay an additional $150. So now there goes $350. That's what they're getting in their mind. And this is the reason why I don't charge sitting fees. Now, if you end up with a group session and it's like, okay, for my retainer fee, which again is whatever, and what I also do in my contract is I say that the retainer fee is also including the session. All right. So if you retain me, that means that you get me to come out and do the session, but it's called a retainer fee. Then I say, okay, if you have a group, then 20% additional to the retainer fee is what I'm going to charge you for you to bring out a group. And then I clarify that a group is anything that's 8 or more, because I've ran into a family of 7. People have 5 kids naturally. Who would have thought it? That's a very common thing. 5 kids in a family is a very common thing. So now you understand kind of the basis of the pricing. All right. Then you can do upsells. All right. Upsells are going to be probably after the session. You could even do an upsell if someone's like, hey, I want a hair and makeup artist. Well, I got to go and hire a hair and makeup artist. And they're actually fairly simple to find. There's usually a salon near you. And if a salon is near you and you find a good person who can do hair, you can probably find someone who can also do makeup. Those two kind of just go together. So don't feel like if someone says, hey, I want hair and makeup, that it's the end of the world. And you're like, oh, no, I can't provide that because I've never done this before. So then you can also upsell on prints. And this is where I make my upsells. I sell packages of photos. So not only are they getting the digital download, the gallery, I usually include the gallery with the packages that I'm selling them. So I have 3 packages, and those packages, they start at $100. So essentially, a person can get the gallery or I'm sorry, they get 5 images out of the gallery and then they get prints because I make more off of selling the prints than I do the digital downloads, right? So I have to make sure that, and then they could purchase at a discounted rate the gallery. So then I still make my money back and then some. But then my second package, it comes with the entire gallery, and that starts at $250. So now I'm up to $450 on with my retainer plus the gallery and the package two, $250. That's $450. And then package three, that can be that. And package three is really something that they would have to, they can create their own thing. So essentially, that turns into something that looks like, okay, package number three, if you want the gallery plus, 15 8x10s, because you got to give them out to all these different family members. Well, I give them a discount essentially on the prints, but then I charge them more for the gallery, right? Because if you're purchasing package three, you want more prints than you want digital downloads. Now, you'll be surprised at how many times I sell package three. And that can, again, it starts off at $400. So in a shoot, I made $600, 200 retainer plus the 600 for the gallery. Everyone does things differently. Again, I'm not saying that you have to do it this way. In fact, I would encourage you to challenge the way that I do it because I know I don't have it perfect. For my business and the way that I photograph and the way that I market myself and sell my imagery, that's been working pretty decent. So I'm not one of those people that changes the way that he works just for the sake of changing the way that I work. All right. Instead, I'd rather just photograph people as is and continue the way that I do business because it is working. So I know I rambled a little bit in this podcast, but hopefully you found some value and some good information about photographing people and pricing for your imagery. And I definitely made this more centered around portrait photography, but the same model works for product photography. All right. Know what your end is, the number that you have to get to, and then just charge that up front. So if I know that I have to get $200 out of each client that I book, charge that up front, make it non-refundable. All right. People will pay $200 for a retainer. And if that's all you care to get is that $200, like that baseline of what I need to get, then you got it. Continue doing your job and deliver images. And, with my headshots, from talking with a few people on the Peter Hurley headshot crew, which I am a member of, there are a lot of different pricing plans. And at the current moment, I'm sticking with my portrait pricing plan because I know it. I know how to sell it. I know how to converse around it or discuss it. But for them, it is like commercial photography. And it is one of those things where they're selling a commodity. So most people looking for headshots really only need one image. So if I sell by the image, I'm still charging my retainer fee. This is just to get you in front of my camera. There is value. Let me tell you, you bring value. Knowing how to use a camera the most appropriate way instantly brings value to the person who's looking for someone who knows how to use a camera. So you should always charge for someone to get in front of your camera. Now, once they're in front of your camera, you figure out the rest. But get them in front of your camera, charge them for it. Don't say, hey, I'm going to gift the session fee and then you just purchase images on the back end. I don't recommend that because, Anyway, well, I guess it's probably something worth saying in this podcast. The reason I don't recommend it is if you don't tell a person that you have to pay to be in front of my camera, they don't value it. They don't value the time. They don't value the session in most cases because it's free. And anything that's free or extremely cheap, people don't value. Case in point, a Honda Civic will be less valued by a person who can afford a Ferrari. They're both cars, but the price point is different. Now, granted, a Ferrari can drive a lot faster and there's cool things under the hood or I guess under the trunk, whatever. The point that I'm making here is you're going to value that car, the Ferrari, a lot more because it costs more. And so you got to put a dollar amount on getting in front of your camera. And I've heard a lot of people say, well, that's going to drive away people and they're not going to want to come and photograph with me because they have to pay to get in front of the camera. Good. That you want to weed out the people who are too cheap to pay to get in front of your camera. If they don't want to pay to get in front of your camera, they're not the client you want. Trust me. I've had plenty of clients that try to nickel and dime me, and the price is the price. I know what I can deliver. I know that what I deliver brings value, and it has value. And the value is set by the price that I'm telling them. They're going to pay the price that I'm telling them. Otherwise, we're not doing business. Like I said before, I'm not so hard pressed on my pricing where you must pay me what I'm telling you that I want, but instead, I'm willing to negotiate on the pricing if it meets the client's need, right? Because I'm a business owner that's meeting the need of my client. But if they're literally just trying to get a deal because they're too cheap to cover the the price that it costs to have me there, well, that tells me that they're not going to be a client that values my time and my worth because they're not willing to pay me my worth. So I let that client go every day of the week because for every client like that, there are 5 clients that are willing to pay you for what your worth is. That's just the truth. Now, the problem is maybe you're not getting in front of the target audience that you really want to capture. I'll do a whole episode about how we can get in front of the audience that we want so that way we can start getting the fees and the prices that we want or the payments that we want. So I'm going to leave it there. Hopefully you found some value in this. If you did, smash the like button on YouTube, interact with this podcast however you can with the platform that you're listening to it on. And if you got questions, you can hit me up, freewillphotos@gmail.com, or come over to freewillphotos.com, hit the contact form, send me a note, and I will get back to you. With that being said, I'll catch you on the next one. Until next time, I want you to stay inspired and keep creating. Peace.